Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is the Big Picture, a conversation show about the best 2025 has had to offer so far. It's the end of June, the halfway mark of the movie year. Have the movies been good so far? We'll ask the Ringer All-Stars what they think. 10 different answers to our question, including our own. Are you excited about this?
I am.
Okay. First, let's talk about what's going on in the world of movies.
Yeah.
F1.
Mm-hmm. They liked it.
Box office success.
Yeah.
$55 million here in America.
Just saw on Deadline, it has been revised to 57.
$57 million.
There you go.
Wow, was that you in the final 2 million showing up Sunday night, late
I was
night?
just booking out IMAX theaters.
Well, that's great news for the producers of that movie. You know, I'm not terribly surprised. We talked a little bit about it. The movie obviously has huge international appeal as well, $100 million internationally. But this is the third June in every 10-year cycle that Brad Pitt has a big movie.
Yeah.
In 2005, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, big hit. In 2015, World War Z, big hit.
Mm-hmm.
And now this movie. And Warner Brothers is kind of killing it this year. I got to tell you, this is like the 5th consecutive movie that they have marketed the hell out of, that they've gotten people excited about, and that people have showed up for.
Yeah.
And I feel like we started this year being like, oh, Pam and Mike.
I know, really turned
what
it around
are they
for
doing?
them. Yeah.
Minecraft, Sinners, Final Destination, Bloodlines, Superman is around the corner.
Right. Well, yeah. We can see. I know.
I think it's going to do really well, Superman. Okay. And all of a sudden, it's all leading up to one battle after another.
Yes, that's true.
And then that movie's going to make $900 million.
Bring it to Venice, you cowards.
Yeah, you're really stumping for that hard, huh?
Yeah, I would like to see Leonardo DiCaprio on the red carpet.
What if?
But then I really just have to go begging at Warner Brothers for a ticket. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
What if PTA zags and goes straight to Telluride?
Do you think that would make sense?
Well, I think he'll get raves out of Telluride.
Sure, except for all of the old people who walked out of Uncut Gems.
They don't write reviews.
Yeah.
They don't write reviews. Uncut Gems was incredibly well reviewed out of Telluride.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what happens.
It's fine. I'm going to have a great time anyway.
In addition to movies that are coming in the future in 2025, we have a 2026 movie trailer.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is called Project Hail Mary.
Yes.
If you listen to our conversation with Matt Bellany after CinemaCon, I think this was the most enthusiastic all of us were about any single thing that they showed us. Now, it was a trailer for a movie that was like 14 months away, which I didn't appreciate that. And I don't appreciate it now that they're teasing us this long with this movie. Nevertheless, what we saw, I think, was closer to 6 or 7 minutes of the movie. This trailer is 3 minutes.
We did?
I believe so. I believe we saw something longer than what they just put up.
Okay.
You don't think so?
No, I thought we saw the trailer. And then I thought that Ryan Gosling appeared on stage before us.
He did do that.
Yeah.
I thought it was longer. Maybe it wasn't. Anyway, this is the new movie from Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are, very renowned producers at this point, but haven't directed a movie, it surprised me to learn, in 11 years. Not
really?
Since 22 Jump Street have they directed a movie, which is shocking. But then you think back to Solo, the Star Wars movie they were supposed to make and then were fired off of and replaced by Ron Howard. So, they've been working on the Spider-Verse movies and a number of other projects. But as a duo, they haven't made a movie since then. It's written by Drew Goddard, who is adapting an Andy Weir book for the second time. The last time he did this, it was a little movie called The Martian.
Yeah.
Project Hail Mary does have some things in common with The Martian. It's about a man going into outer space by himself and trying to survive,
and figuring things out.
Yes, using science and the human spirit to solve a problem.
And to reconnect with the humanity in all of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, this is a formula for movies that works.
I absolutely can't wait.
I think this movie looks incredible. This is a great trailer.
We felt that way in Vegas. We were just like, oh my God, what is this in Vegas? And then it hit this morning and the group chats are very excited.
Our movie group chat was firing.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's pumped about this movie. We'll see. It's coming out next spring.
I'm ready.
I think it is in that neat timing of like, there'll be a lot of lead up to it during the Academy Awards run.
Yes.
And
then it's like a week or two after.
Yeah. And I think it ensures that we'll see Ryan Gosling at the Academy Awards as well.
I'm thrilled.
Any other thoughts? Anything else you want to share about Project Hail Mary?
I'm pro.
Okay. So we're talking about the year in movies on this episode. We also previewed the summer with a game this year. And we're halfway through the summer. Or at least maybe not in the calendar sense, but in the movie calendar sense. So we've had May and we've had June.
Mm-hmm.
Good summer so far?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think this episode is about finding the good, and everyone has been enthusiastic. I like everyone's picks. And so we finished this episode and we're like, hey, pretty great movie year. And at the box office, it's been like fine to good.
Solid. Yeah. Improving.
Not a disaster.
Definitely not a disaster.
No one's freaking out about, whatever goes on your side of the table.
No. We don't have any like $2 billion movies aside from the Chinese Nija film that is huge. But some solid performers and some really good movies. The game that we played was about both the quality and the financial aspect. So we were predicting box office and Metacritic score, domestically only. Now, the tally is in.
Yeah.
We're trying to get lowest score possible because what we want to have is the smallest margin in terms of our predictions. And at the moment, I am currently leading you 840 points to 1,061 points.
It's simply not what you want.
It's not what you want. It is obviously what I want. Now, we have gotten a couple things very wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong. I think the minute after we recorded this, I felt bad about a couple of things.
I felt bad about a lot of things. And, I guess I was just in a quote unquote abundance mindset in general. I haven't read that book. I don't know what that's about, the Derek Thompson book, but yeah,
it's about the rise of Marxism in our American politics. Okay. No, that's not what it's about at all.
I think I'm feeling generous for everyone. I was in it's like a go-go economy frame of mind.
Well, I think in some cases we overestimated, and in some cases we significantly underestimated. For example, the first movie that we talked about on that rundown was Thunderbolts. Sure. We did pretty good. Yeah. I predicted $199 million at the box office, was only 9 off. It sits at 190 right now.
I'm just remembering that I revised up during the podcast. Yes. And I think I was pretty close to 190 originally. Maybe I was even at 180. So I was closer.
You went up to 215.
Yeah.
Maybe because you love the movie so much.
I did. Yeah, definitely my favorite.
You were 7 off on the Metacritic score. You went 61. I went 64, and it landed at 68. So, that's a good example of us being in the relative ballpark. So, because of those gaps, I picked up 13 points on that movie. You picked up 32. We won't go through every movie here. I just want to point out a couple of upside picks and a couple of downside picks. Downside pick, here's one. Final Destination Bloodlines.
What was I doing?
This is a tricky one. So I landed on a 119 coming out of this movie, and you landed on 105. Our box office predictions, I picked 46, you picked 42. Our Metacritic scores, we went 44 and 62. This movie has grossed $136 million in America and had a 73 Metacritic score. I did not expect this movie to be as good as it is or as successful as it is.
Is this correct that I only guessed 42? Because I remember thinking that I was optimistic about this. Okay.
It's possible that it's wrong. We'll have to check in with our research department to confirm whether or not it's wrong. Maybe they'll have
That seems low, but I don't know.
I think we were leaning on the box office history of this. I do recall the Metacritic score being something that you were higher on. You thought it would do better. So, you had a 62 here.
But that doesn't matter. That's not where I'm picking up points.
It's very true. We may have to revise the scoring system next year.
Yeah. Well, it's like $1 is not equivalent to one, Metacritic score, or even 1 million.
It's not. It's just a game.
Yeah.
It's just a game.
Well,
another failure in our game, Lilo and Stitch.
I mean, I just straight up got that wrong because I'm not afraid to say that.
Yes. So
did the movie, in my opinion, but that's okay.
Yeah, that may be true. A lot of people in our mentions, a lot of young millennials rattling the cage about how important this movie was to them and how this is really the inside out 2 of this year.
And yet those people don't want the older sister to get an education. So.
Right. You're referring to the backlash around the storytelling, the lack of Ohana in Nani pursuing her career as an oceanographer?
Yeah.
No, a marine biologist. Thank you.
Thank you. But she has a portal, so she can come home. And also Ohana is about, I'm worried about the lack of Ohana in The Neighbor. Who just takes the ATV down and is like, good luck, and then rides the ATV back up the hill.
Okay, stop trying.
What about the Ohana from The Social Worker?
You're trying to pivot away from your very poor prediction of box office for this film. You predicted $180 million. Yeah. Right now, the movie is still in theaters, and it has grossed $395 million.
Well, listen, I fucked up.
You fucked up. I fucked up, too. I predicted $218 million. We were pretty close, though, on our Metacritic scores. It came in at a 53, and we both predicted 56. So, anyway, we've got 2 more months of movies. It's probably appropriate to check back in on this roughly mid-September again, maybe second week of September, and say box office has settled, Metacritic has settled. Anything that you're really nervous about in the second half that you've made predictions on?
Superman.
Yeah, we were a little low on Superman.
No, I think I was higher.
Were you?
But now I'm like, so the thing is that overall, we were lower, and you were like particularly just lower from a box office perspective.
On the biggies, yeah. On the big ones.
On the biggies. And so like in total, I think your box office did not like even meet the box office of last year.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
So it does seem like we're on track overall for the box office to meet or pass last year. So I'm hopeful that like I played some averages, you know, and there are going to be like 1 or 2 where you get really hosed and I make up some space, you know, but I don't know whether that's going to be Superman. I'm a little nervous again. The press tour, you know, is not indicative of how things with a superhero in the title usually go, but I'm nervous.
The tracking is really high for this movie right now.
Well, it's called Superman.
In the past, that hasn't always meant that it would be a huge success.
It's just like, it's the simplicity of it,
yeah,
you know?
Sure.
It's not like
it's not called
from
Man
the
of
world
Steel.
of John Wick, Ballerina, or whatever.
I
It
agree.
is literally just like, hey, have you heard of Superman?
This is the first time a movie has been called Superman since Christopher Reeve.
And I think that I like bet all my money just on that very simple decision, but we'll see.
Let's find out. Let's also find out what our colleagues think are the best movies of the year. You ready to jump into that?
What a segue.
Let's go to our first Ringer All-Star. Okay, Rob Mahoney, podcaster extraordinaire, is here. There's a true star here at the Ringer.
I like
How
the
are you
sound of
feeling? Feeling good?
Overwhelmed now. That's a lot of pressure to live up to.
In addition to all of your fine work in the world of the NBA and in prestige television, you're a frequent guest of this podcast, an avid movie watcher, and you have the great fortune of being the first guest in the best movies of the year so far episode.
As you do in every draft episode, you just went right for it.
Look, I'm not going to dance around it. You know, usually I end up with what I think is the first choice in these selections, and then you swoop in and you're like, actually, I want to talk about that movie.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Sinners.
Okay.
What else are we doing here if not talking about Sinners?
It's a really good point. It's the obvious first round pick, but it is the first round pick.
I'm not trying to get cute with it. To demonstrate the power of Sinners, I had the pleasure of seeing Materialist with you, Amanda.
Yes.
After the movie, Amanda's glued to her seat just to make sure there is not a 50 years flash ahead post-credits Thanos scene with Dakota Johnson.
I was really shook, okay? I didn't even know until we were podcasting. Still haven't seen it, by the way.
No.
That sequence.
Yeah.
Well, you'll just have to buy it on 4K Blu-ray.
It'll pop. It's tremendous. But yeah, like ultimately this is the kind of movie that changes what you want to look for in other movies. And like that's the kind of experience I'm looking for.
This would have been my number one. It currently sits atop my rankings for the year. It is a remarkable movie. I think that its success is now bound up in its greatness too, its quality. Yeah. And the film has been such a phenomenon, at least here in the United States, where it's made a ton of money and maybe will be a movie that we talk about all the way through next March. I'm not quite sure. What do you think?
One can only hope. I think it's going to be in contention for a lot of things potentially, including a lot of different performances could be recognized for this. Like Michael Caine, oh my God. Like forget debut, just in terms of a powerhouse revelation performance.
Absolutely.
I find it hard to ask for more than that.
He's kind of an extraordinary find. I was listening to some of his music that he made before this movie, and it's in that kind of like, I would say the Travis Scott zone.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Which, like maybe a little bit of T-Pain thrown in there as well. And
so you're saying there's some real scouting done here. You know, you really had to get to the depths of.
I don't even know if he played guitar before he got this part.
It sounds like not.
He literally transforms into a Mississippi Delta blues musician before our eyes in the movie, and it's amazing. I think obviously Michael B. Jordan there will be conversation about him through the end of the year.
Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your recent marriage to Josh Allen.
I think there will be a lot of conversation about her in NFL locker rooms, certainly.
Yeah.
And we're happy for her. I didn't know she had that in her bag.
No.
I didn't either. But it has stayed with me.
I think there's a lot of that in this movie. You know, Jack O'Connell didn't know he had that in his bag.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Wumi Masaku isn't doing this stuff in Marvel fare. You know,
it's true.
So, like, I think getting to turn back layers of all these really interesting performers, and it's such a great synergy of style and music and performance, and ultimately like messaging. Like this is a movie that has a lot to say. It is in many senses, what if From Dusk Till Dawn had more to say than Selma Hayek is hot?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a powerful template.
There's nothing wrong with that part.
No, it's valuable,
Yes.
but there
Did
can
this
be more.
movie need more scenes where a stripper pours tequila down her ankle and a man drinks it off of her toes? Do you think that would have made Sinners better?
I think it would have fit in, honestly.
It would have fit in.
Of a piece.
Listen, everyone goes for it in their own way in this film.
It's very exciting. Obviously, when the movie came out, we celebrated it quite a bit on the show, and I think Kugler kind of represents the best of us. This is really what I'm like kind of banging the table for every week. I think it's a great pick for this. I'm very curious to see what he does next.
Yeah. Is there a blanker check than this blank check?
Yeah.
This is as blank as they get these days, which is funny because he already had multiple billion-dollar movies.
Yeah.
And he is apparently making Black Panther 3.
Okay.
And Denzel Washington is going to be in Black Panther 3.
Wow.
Okay.
Is Letitia Wright Black Panther? Doesn't seem ideal.
No, it was not ideal in the second one.
It was not.
I hope he's got something else coming up right behind that is in the Sinners, if not the same genre, the same vibe, that same sense of mastery that he brings to the table. But
that would be nice, but I'm not mad at Black Panther 3 either. And at this point, I just am not going to doubt anything that he wants to do. I think between Creed and the first Black Panther and this, those are 3 Kugler movies that I don't know that anyone could have done it in the way that he did it.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So like a really singular vision for these movies that you would think Creed would have like a pretty paint by numbers kind of enterprise. And all of a sudden it becomes this new and exciting thing. And you would think this could be a pretty straight down the middle genre movie. And it turns into something that's like so specific and captures something that's really hard to keep in the bottle. And it manages to do it for the entire runtime. I'm just like, I can't get enough of this movie, honestly.
Great job.
Well, it's yours.
Well,
yeah.
Well done,
it.
Rob.
Thanks.
You son of a bitch. We'll see you next time. Okay, we're here with Van Lathan. Higher Learning, 1/2, 1/4 of the Midnight Boys.
Quarter of the Midnight Boys.
What other shows you on? Rewatchables.
Rewatchables. Do a lot of stuff. Also,
Ryan Russillo.
let you guys know, Face of the Ringer. We've come up with that and we've done that. Sean.
Yeah.
You were a finalist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dobbins first 4 out, just like I was.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
First 4 out. You were a finalist.
Mandy, you mean?
Mandy Dobbins.
Sure.
Mandy
Okay.
Dobbins.
We did your player comp.
Oh, great. Okay.
Jason Tatum. You're the Jason Tatum.
I've
of the
heard of
Ringer.
him, but he's in recovery right now.
He's in
right?
recovery
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now.
Recovery from an injury, not from abuse
Sure,
of any
right. Yes,
substances.
excuse me. Yeah. But he had the surgery the next morning. Bill thinks he's going to be ready sooner than everyone else. And
Jason Tatum has all the tools.
Sure.
Has won a title.
Yes.
But has no swag.
Oh,
That's not.
that
why.
That is
Okay.
absolutely true.
That's-
We did it because of family stuff.
Oh,
Because
okay.
he really is the Deuce. He's
Okay.
his son, and he's Deuces with him everywhere. That's why.
Oh,
it
there are
happened.
2 sons?
No,
Oh, just
the
one.
son is Deuce.
Oh,
so
okay.
you are.
Oh,
that's
okay.
why.
Got it. Thank you.
He's
Okay.
trying to see how
Yeah,
you do.
that's rude.
I get it.
Who's
That's
he?
what I
What's
do.
his comp?
His comp was, I can't remember. Me and Chris Ryan came up with this stuff. But no, we only did comps for the people that were the first 4 out. Because
Okay.
if you're a finalist, you didn't need
Yeah.
a comp.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Jordan, obviously. Best movies of the year. We just had somebody in here, Rob Mahoney, and
Wow.
he chose the film Sinners.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great
So
of you guys.
what do you think about that?
Appreciate that, Jack. That was awesome. That they go, just the way things go here, they go, Van, we're doing the best movies of the year. Can you come in and tell us your favorite film?
Right.
And I go, oh, no brainer. And they go, oh, you can't choose Sinners.
Yeah.
So which means that here on the Big Pick, they don't want me to be invited to the Soul Train Awards, the BET Awards, the NAACP Awards. They don't want me walking around
Yeah.
with any type of cachet in the culture. So I appreciate that. Jack Sanders, my new enemy.
Well, but no, here's the thing. Can you tell the listeners why you were not allowed to choose it?
Because Mahoney chose it.
Yeah, it's not us.
Yeah.
Once again, Rob Mahoney,
Yeah.
like the dark angel of the big picture, comes and takes things away
I would say
from
that's
people.
not allyship.
Yeah.
It's
You know?
not allyship at all. And by the way, people talk about, a lot of people have spoken about, should I say, the move that I made like a year and a half ago to where I wanted to be on more Ringer stuff and I was a lot of places.
Mhm.
No one is fucking taking over this place like mine. Like you walk into the refrigerator and you try to get something and it's
Yeah.
like Mahoney's put his name on it.
Right.
like no one is taking over this place.
It's incredibly
like
true. What was his
Mahoney-
comp?
Oh, what did we say Mahoney's comp was? We got into it.
I don't know.
I cannot remember.
I've never heard any of your
CR.
podcasts. I don't know.
I appreciate that. This was a CR thing. CR had the Mahoney comp. I can't remember exactly what it was though. But whatever it was,
he's giving Jokic. Really?
He's giving Jokic.
Okay.
He's giving Jokic.
Kind of can't be stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
but
always
would
in the
rather
way.
just like go be with his family and also horses.
And he's free time.
Jokic likes horses, right?
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. I do, you know what?
Sports man.
I do the work.
Maybe next year, Face of the Ringer
Could be.
Okay.
could crack the top 4.
It's Mallory Rubin.
Okay.
So.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes people who don't really pay attention think that because we have the same color hair and are women, we're the same person.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to Higher Learning, you're going to hear that.
Literally, Rachel said that. It's very funny. It was amazing that she actually enunciated a comment you might see on YouTube from time to time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's talk about movies.
Okay.
You didn't get Sinners.
Did not get Sinners.
He Jack O'Connell'd you.
He did.
And he will never be invited to the barbecue now,
I
right?
appreciate that, yeah. Stay away, eat all the food.
So what'd you choose?
I chose Companion.
This is a great pick.
And so I was going to choose Thunderbolts, but that was only a reflexive pick after Sinners wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
If I think about the movie that I was most pleasantly surprised with and the most satisfied with thus far, it's Companion. Like, I don't really know how to articulate the feeling of, oh my God, this is a film that I would have loved to win. I don't know what I'm really trying to say. I've struggled with it, but there used to just be movies that you would cut them on and you would be like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Starts off with a really, it seems like a scene that you know is some kind of dream sequence. It doesn't seem real, but you're wondering why it's there. And then the movie takes you on some twists and turns, shall I say, that you really, honestly, didn't see coming. And then it has something to say. It's not unlike Ex Machina. It's like a kind of like the fun version of that movie because that movie is not fun.
No.
It's a fun to watch, but it's...
Yeah, it doesn't end well.
It's serious.
Yeah, and it's existential dread and all of that stuff. But this one it's cool and it's funny and it's a little sexy and it's a little rebellious and it has a villain turn from Jack Quaid, who you can't even see as a villain. Very unexpected, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Pretty good pick. It's a really good movie. It's like kind of the perfect first half of the year down the middle, modest genre movie that just works. And it did okay at the box office, but I feel like it's now actually a little underseen. It doesn't quite have the cachet. Why didn't it do
better? I saw it in a hotel in New York when I was waiting to do something on CNN, which Bill really loves when I do that. So it is one of his favorite things. So like, do we not market films like this? When I say films, just cool movies.
It is a little bit of it, like it has a twist. And so to be able to, I think it wisely did not put the twist in the marketing, or maybe it did, and I just didn't watch it.
It puts the first part of the twist, but not the second
part of the twist.
Right.
But it's hard to sell people. And that was also a little bit like pre-Jack Quaid moment, because that was the first of the 2 Jack Quaid movies of the year. See also Novocaine.
Right.
So people, I guess, were just kind of asleep at the wheel. But I agree with you. Really, like, smart, funny script, executed just perfectly for what it is, good performances. And like, the thing you're saying of where you're trying to figure out like what's going on and you're like, oh, I do want to know what happens, while it also being like very recognizable, like here are the genre beats that I need. But like the Tesla scene is just like extremely funny. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I know. I mean, it's a Tesla, right?
It's not actually a Tesla, but it's meant to be a Tesla.
It's supposed to be, yeah. And you're like, oh, of course, if I thought through this, like this is exactly what you would write, but I'm very amused and entertained by it.
And then like, the film gets a little light where it should be dark, gets a little dark where it should be light. There's some ominousness in some of the things earlier. I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but I wonder for a movie like that, if I'm not in any way trying to recast the film or saying that the leads of the movie didn't do a great job, but if Florence Pugh is your lead and then Paul Mescal is in the Jack Quaid part, is that movie...
It's bigger.
It's
but
that,
like I don't know if
I don't know if it would be as surprising in a way. There's something surprising. Sophie Thatcher in that part we're holding our stock
Right.
for Sophie Thatcher.
I
So we
love
are
her.
not
Yeah.
selling.
Yeah. Why would you
Really,
sell? What
really
happened?
good in
Missed
Heretic. No, just that this movie didn't like pop.
Oh, yeah.
But it did okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a great pick. Drew Hancock was on the show, writer director. It's his first movie.
Mhm.
He'd written a lot of screenplays, but he never directed a movie before. I like it, Van.
And I'll say this before I get out of here about that. There's intention. Okay. So in this being the first thing that a guy like that would direct.
Mhm.
Because if I was looking to get into the director's chair, I wouldn't think, what is my best script? I would think, what is my most directable script? Like, what can I apply of it? Because these guys make these movies, and then like later on, the stuff that they're making by their fourth or fifth film, a lot of times doesn't look like the first thing that they made, right? They've perfected their visual craft.
Right.
They've perfected the way that they work with actors. But a lot of times young directors bite off too much when they want to sit down because they want to show people how badass they are.
Mhm.
This is a movie that's well directed, but it's a very lean film.
Yes.
So it's a perfect film with a great script, if you're going to take your first shot at it.
Mhm.
It's very smart of him, very savvy of him.
Great pick. Companion.
Boom. Go see it. Also see Sinners. And we love Sinners. And Rob Mahoney, to hell with you.
Coming to us live from Bulgaria, it's CR Chris Ryan. CR, where are you, man?
I'm on the front lines. We're trying to bring Wheel of Time back just for Amanda's husband. I'm going to be filming it myself on my iPhone. Never let them tell you something's impossible, guys.
Well, we miss you here in Los Angeles. Hopefully we'll be reunited soon. In the meantime, we're talking about the best movies of the year so far. You've talked with us on some episodes about some very good movies, 28 years later, for example, recently. Has this been a good movie year for you?
It's been a really, really fun movie year. I think that I was just talking with Andy about how we're kind of missing a show of the summer.
Mhm.
And that the two big ones that we were kind of thinking about, if you had asked us 6 months ago, we were like, well, Squid Game, last season of Squid Game and The Bear would be the big shows of the summer. And they both binge dropped and have
No
had mixed
spoilers.
responses.
Haven't gotten to the bear yet.
I just said I had mixed responses and
Okay.
no spoilers, but they are over in a day. And I feel like there's been more conversation. You hear people talking about more movies. You get more text messages about movies. You see lines outside of movie theaters, people dying to get in. I got to see F1, vroom, vroom. So yeah, it's been a good year of movies. And I've ever since Sinners, I've just been feeling really fired up. I think early part of the year, I was like, Black Bag's good, but I don't know what else. And now ever since Sinners, I feel like we've been on like a real hot streak.
Does feel that way.
Yeah.
That's been a recurring theme through some of these conversations today. So for you, Sinners was off the board.
Mhm.
Black Bag is off the board. 28 Years Later is off the board.
Yeah.
I don't know if those movies would have been your number ones. I know you like them, but so what is your number one favorite movie of the year so far?
Materialists.
I love you. I'm so ready.
I wanted
for
to
this.
talk about something that I usually wouldn't get a chance to talk about on this show. I mean, I've talked about Warfare. I've talked about 28 Years Later. I love Sinners. Like, yeah, I guess numerically it wouldn't be my number one movie of the year, but this is just an example of like I would say the best part about this year is it's been interesting and it hasn't been boring. I've had lots of years where I've been like, I admire the craftsmanship, but Jesus Christ, tears are coming out of my eyes. And that's one thing you can't say about Materialists is while I'm sure some people may have felt like they were watching old people eat with this movie, like I found myself at least deeply, deeply, deeply engaged. And I think a lot of that has to do with the choices that Celine Song made filmmaking wise, but and also maybe some of our performers made and their styles of performance, which I'm sure was directed to do so. But I found myself like talking and thinking about this movie and then reading about it, having a great time reading about people being extremely mad about this film afterwards. So it's definitely, I think, it's something I hope people go check out and continue to talk about.
So we're 3 weeks out from the great Materialist freak out.
The feedback is not done. I was personally confronted on Saturday night by two close friends with their opinions.
Okay.
Of not just a Materialist, but of our podcasts about Materialists.
Okay.
Because people are engaged. They were excited to see this movie. They thought it was going to be one thing. They got another. They were outraged. And so Chris, Chris is right. Everyone wants to share their opinion about this very loudly.
I had a fun journey to this movie.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it because I hear a lot about, I wasn't expecting this. And this was not the movie that was sold to me. Reverse for me. I read everything and listened to you guys before I saw the movie. And I think it actually helped in the case of Materials because you don't get the rope-a-dope. You don't get the classic Celine song, Okie-doke, which we've come to expect. I went in there
I think that's more on the movie studio for the record.
Yeah.
But
yeah, sure, of course. But if you go into this movie and expect it to be a little bit more like Hal Hartley or Whit Stillman than Nancy Meyers, I think it plays a lot better. It makes a lot more sense if you understand that there's like an affectation going on to the acting and that it's very like literary and it's writing or dense. Maybe not literary, but very dense writing style with the dialogue. And then about 20 minutes into the movie, I noticed something because it's set in New York City and in a very social part of New York City. Weddings, dates, restaurants, street corners. You can't hear a thing. She makes this really interesting choice to zero out background noise so that all you hear are these whispered conversations between these actors. And then I found myself deeply focused on what they were talking about, even though I didn't really think it was like reflective of a character or like that these were real people, quote unquote. But it just got my brain going in this interesting direction that rarely happens with a big summer movie.
This was my positive spin on the movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good idea movie.
I agree with you.
It's a really fun movie to think about and take apart, even though those things that we're talking, like we are very now all comfortable being like the acting in this movie is bad. You know, like just outwardly saying that, which is not something we usually say on pods. I think it's because we hold Celine Song in some esteem and we hold like a smart urban drama in a certain level of esteem. But
and anybody who's lost a mother while they were in the Amazon researching spiders, like I think we owe them respect and deference.
I couldn't agree more. And she's obviously still experiencing that trauma, and that explains why she is the way that she is in the film.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think the writing is actually quite interesting, and I think it's okay that it is at times inhuman.
Right.
You know, that there is a kind of philosophy textbook quality.
I think
to
the
some
subtext
of
of
the
the film is the text of the film, right? Like it's like all the ideas of the movie are actually the characters in the the movie itself.
Yeah.
And the people are merely like the vessels for that.
And then they also look pretty for the most part.
And
So
look
that's
pretty.
good. And then there is good music. Yeah. They are chess pieces in her, playwriting turned, serialized exploration of love triangles in cinema. But that's okay. And, I found myself at this dinner and my friend Aaron sent me a text to apologize the next day. And Aaron, it's okay. You were you made some great points, but I found myself defending not only that it was an idea movie, but the ideas itself. I was like, I don't know. It's, it is Jane Austen. It's Edith Wharton. It's this long tradition of, the romantic world as a financial and status stand-in for women. And I guess we're supposed to be past that. But are we? And how do people think about that? And to me, I because I have watched literally every single other movie and read almost all the other books in that tradition, I find it interesting. Other people didn't care so much, but that's okay.
Let me ask you this, Chris. I know you're not the world's greatest romantic comedy expert, but the exasperation that the romantic comedy faithful have around the movie, does that indicate that we should also just be greenlighting significantly more rom-coms for movie theaters? That seems to be an obvious takeaway, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think just maybe a broader genre policy in general would be good. But yeah, I definitely think if you took away 3 tongue-in-cheek John Wick ripoffs and made a more expensive version of whatever Netflix, Amazon, or Apple rom-com we get twice a year. I don't know. I mean, I also really just appreciated the fact that lover, hater, one movie, dislike another movie. Celine Song's obviously really talented and really interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think Past Lives was something that affected people a little bit more deeply and personally and had a more emotional curve to it. But this was provocative to me. I mean, now people might be provocative in the sense that I want to throw it in a dumpster, but I think that's cool. I think it's cool. Honestly, it made me kind of think of Warfare a little bit too, where it's just yeah, it's kind of neat to have movies that people are like, I want to light this on fire. I hated it.
Yeah.
It's way better to have that feeling than be like, I guess Ballerina had some cool scenes.
Did it?
I couldn't agree more with that position and the idea of there being some division in point of view on whether a movie works or not.
And even the writing that's been critical of the film, which I think a lot of it is very entertaining. It's like that writing is entertaining because people are being engaged in a different way than when they're like, yes, another CGI slop fest where a car drives through a building and then lands on the moon. It's like, no, it's like, this is, you're reacting because maybe you don't want the world to be like this, or you do want the world to be more like something. And I think that's fascinating. It's what I want movies to do more of.
I couldn't agree more. I have also noticed, as I'm sure you have, that Celine Song has kind of, with the movie, been able to elevate herself out of the typical kind of movie discourse into appearing on the Modern Love podcast for the New York Times and like becoming the subject of a kind of discourse that is more national, not just kind of entrenched in Hollywood, A24, all that stuff that Past Lives was kind of dominated by.
And even within like film culture. I did note that my friends who don't listen to this podcast, bless them, were also like, I would like to go see Materialist. I have an opinion about this. Like I have heard from everyone in my life about this movie, which is fun. Movies are back. And Materialist, to Chris's point, being like so like divisive, I guess, or at least inspiring such reaction is another way of saying like, yeah, everyone is paying attention to movies. So that's good.
CR, thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, guys.
We'll see you soon.
Come home.
Only when Wheel of Time is back.
Joanna Robinson is here, pod princess of the Ringer Podcast Network.
Oh, princess. Wow.
Yeah, House of R, Prestige TV podcast. What other pods are you on?
This one as much as I can be, just trying to infiltrate where I can. Hello.
Speaking of infiltration, a useful word for your selection. But before we get to your selection, good movie year? Have you been enjoying yourself? Mixed? Meh? Bad?
Mixed, but with a message that is exciting. Like the things that are hitting are really interesting to me. That makes sense.
What do you mean by that?
We're about to talk about an original mid-budget film and whether or not those can succeed. And in some cases, they have succeeded this year, and that's really exciting for what we might look at going forward. It's not just IP stuff to talk about this year, if that makes sense at the box office. So
I know you're relieved. You're very relieved about that.
I am. Though I'm with Joe. It's like mixed positive so far.
Okay.
And she stole what I would have picked.
Oh.
Had I,
Interesting.
I think probably my on paper number one for sentimental and personal reasons. So that's okay.
I think
that's exciting.
You've just given it away. What is it?
Yeah.
What's your pick, Joanna?
It's Black Bag. It's Steven Soderbergh. It's Kate Blanchett. It's Michael Fassbender. It's spies. It's marriage. It's wigs. It's turtlenecks. It's everything you could possibly want. It's great.
Wait, who's wearing a wig in the movie?
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, come on.
I think I knew that. I think I knew
It's
that.
a really good one though. Like it's like got supporting billing in this movie. It's incredible.
Okay. So, we did an episode about this movie, and this was a film that was a real problem for this show because I knew that like a billion people weren't going to go see it.
Right.
And it's all in the telling, right? It's all in the plotting and the elegance of the story unloading. And like, you don't want to spoil a movie like that for people on a podcast. It's been like 4 months since it came out. Do we feel that the world has watched Black Bag? Can we talk about it freely at this point?
I mean, I feel like we could talk about it freely, but I also don't think people are watching Black Bag or have watched it. And that's part of why we're here, I think, to promote something that people haven't like decided to check out yet, but they can. They can press pause on this podcast right now and go watch it. And only 90 minutes later, they will be done. So
90 beautifully orchestrated, wonderfully shot,
slick,
90% well performed.
Elegant.
I have one casting note, but that's okay. I know everyone's doing great. Yeah. And it's available to watch at home. And then you can say, yay, movies.
Let's just talk about I don't want to get too deep into your problems with the movie.
No,
but,
I don't have any problems.
I thought this was like an amazingly well cast movie.
Yeah.
And it does feel like all Steven Soderbergh movies now feel like they are like I'm almost watching him make them in real time because of what we know about the way that he produces the movies, where he, produces, shoots, edits, and directs the movies and cuts them in real time. And that idea being in my head makes it feel like the movie is happening in real time to me. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like metatextualized my experience of watching it. And this movie is clearly an homage to a certain kind of 60s.
There goes the ember.
60s and 70s spy thriller. But it also feels like a very modern relationship drama. What was it about it that clicked for you, Joanna?
Yeah, I love a spy movie. I love marriage inside of a different genre movie. I'm a huge Mr. and Mrs. Smith fan.
Same.
Personally. I love the Thin Man movies. Like all of this is paying homage to that. But I think what's been so interesting to hear Steven Soderbergh talk about, David Koepp, the screenwriter, talk about is how Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was their main influence for this movie. And it's got these banger dinner scenes, and you can just see that dynamic inside of just something that feels very slick, very Oceans, very, high gloss. The thing that, Steven Soderbergh gave interviews after this movie came out and didn't do very well about how the audiences didn't show up for this movie the way that he hoped they would, or that he needed them to, or the way, we could deliver a message to wider Hollywood of these are the kinds of movies people will show up for, and they didn't for this movie. And, his theory was something about, original movies or something like that. But I worry that Steven Soderbergh, in doing so many direct-to-video, he had his Netflix deal and then his HBO Max deal. Like, I feel like Steven Soderbergh did a disservice to the idea of a Steven Soderbergh film. It doesn't feel as big as I think it should. He made a bunch of small movies, and there's nothing wrong with a small movie. But then when you try to make something like this with a $50 million budget, it's not massive, but it's, they have to make their money back. It's not $2 million, which has been, some of his other budgets recently. And then it just doesn't feel like an event the way that it really deserves to, I think.
I think there's definitely something to that. I respect the fact that he wanted to just continue working through COVID. And so one of the reasons why he signed that HBO Max deal, I think, was just to kind of continue to put films out. I think those films are now going to end up a little memory hold for some people because they're only on that service and they don't have physical media representation. And so movies like this maybe don't feel like as much of an event. But I think it also goes back even to like Logan Lucky and kind of his return post-retirement, and thinking that he had kind of cracked a new paradigm of how to release movies like that.
Right.
And that didn't really work out all that well. And I just think there's something to the fact that he likes a certain kind of adult drama.
He's making movies for grown-ups, and the grown-ups who watch Steven Soderbergh movies are watching them at home. And maybe they'll do PVOD. Like maybe they'll pay for it, but like probably not. They'll just rent it and they'll check it out and be like, that was really great.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like the things that are encouraging this year, The Sinners and the 28 Years Later, they're all kind of like attached to a little bit more spectacle. And this is not a spectacle, right? It is like, it is sharp and cool and really smart, but there's not a lot of whiz bang in Black Bag.
It's not vampires and it's not zombies, but it is spies and it is movie stars.
Right.
And I think that we might just not be in that era anymore. And it's not that I disagree with what you said about his approach. It's just thinking about like how stubborn, Christopher Nolan was or something like that. Like the people who were so stubborn about my movie needs to feel like an event, their movies still feel like events.
Yeah.
And for Soderbergh, who chose to do something different, it's interesting. But when you really need it to come through and feel like an event, it didn't for people. And that's too bad, because this movie I thought was just really phenomenal. I had such a good time with it. So
I did too. I think it's interesting to think about in the arc of his career too, because he's certainly the Oceans guy and the Traffic guy, but he's also the Bubble guy and the Full Frontal guy. Right. And, he always is kind of on these like digressions and discursions through whatever kind of distribution style he's making within the kind of movie that he's making. And maybe he's, I don't know, lost some standing in the mind of the moviegoer. I'm not really sure.
He wanted to keep working through COVID, as you said, but like this is a man who likes to work. This is the second Steven Soderbergh film of the year that was, there was also Presence.
Also quite good.
And there is something to the way that he makes movies and the way that he likes to make movies, which is not that it is, there's just a lot of them. He wants to keep trying stuff. He wants to be in the moment. And so that is, but I think just like the volume and the experimental, like, oh, let's do this. Let's try this. What if we did this? Does sort of run counter to what is, we've been waiting 45 years and I had to, carry the film canisters on a ship by myself to every theater.
What's
or
wrong
whatever.
with that? What is wrong with that?
Listen, that's great. But it's like part of the Steven Soderbergh experience is like, oh, look, like, and another great movie.
Yeah, I couldn't believe there was an announcement that he's got another film premiering at TIFF, The Christophers. I was like, where the fuck? Yeah. When is he doing all this?
And he's reading every single great work of literature.
It is really amazing. The movie itself, we've had a bit of a Michael Fassbender comeback here. He's kind of playing the same character in everything he's been doing recently. I didn't spend a ton of time with The Agency, the American remake of
finally
Le
finished
Bureau.
it. Yeah.
Did you watch it, Joanna?
I did. Yeah, we covered it on Prestige. And I thought it was fine, but the Agency felt like just completely fine. And this feels actually quite special to me.
Yeah.
And The Agency is what I was worried this was going to be. And then this wound up being a bit more special than that. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think this and The Killer, I think, are two of like his best performances. They are playing a very similar tune.
Yes.
Like massive restraint, the expression of intellect.
Yes.
A kind of suavity.
Sure. Fincher and Soderbergh are also simpatico in the let's a respect for getting this done exactly right.
Yeah.
And then and maybe not showing all our emotional cards all at once. Though I find Black Bag to be incredibly romantic, which says a lot about me, I guess. But
no, it's like in a deeply demented, fun way.
Yeah.
It's very romantic. Like him talking to her about what he would do for, the premise of the film being, and this is just premise, not twist, but premise of the film being that there is a leak at the agency. He has to investigate fellow spies. And one of the people on the short list is his wife, Catherine, played by Cate Blanchett. And so he is both investigating, but also has a vested interest. And they're like obsessed with each other.
Yeah.
And that comes through. It's not cold and chilly, actually. It's like it is reserved and elegant and precise, but there is this sort of underneath obsession with each other, and then the messiness of the other spies around them, the frailties of the other spies around them, I think just makes it really, really potent for me.
Potent for me is Marissa Abella.
I know that.
I'm very pleased to see her bounce back after Back to Black.
Sure.
And would like to see her in more films. Her toe-to-toe with Fassbender, I thought very amusing as someone who kind of can't hold it together in the face of his chill, his cold. But
Tom Burke.
This movie, I was going to say, this movie has an incredible supporting cast across the board. Tom Burke is excellent in this. Very, very funny. This is a very funny movie as well. Very knowingly written in a lot of ways. And Pierce Brosnan also, and Naomi Harris. Like, the terrific cast. Is Regé-Jean Page your issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
What's the issue?
I don't totally want to spoil it for everyone, but like, when he has to play his role,
okay,
it's okay. He's not at the level of everybody else around the table. Literally,
he needs to feel like a credible threat to Fassbender's character, just in terms of all the various machinations, and he doesn't really. Like a Tom Burke would feel like more of a credible threat to me than a Regé-Jean Page.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key wrong footing moments of the movie is you think that this is going to be Tom Burke and Fassbender toe to toe, and in fact, it is not that movie at all. Yeah. Joanna, great pick. This is a really, really good movie. This is without a doubt one of I think probably our collective top 5 movies of the year.
Can I just say I love doing this podcast with you every year. This is the third year in a row that Rob Mahoney has sniped my actual number one.
Listen, like, take the complaints to Rob. You see him more than we do.
That's true.
No. Like, I am not complaining to you. He has already
every
heard
single person that's
complaints.
come on this episode. It's a big picture tradition in a way that Rob just screws everyone over.
I had lunch with Rob yesterday. Here's what he told me. He was like, I'm just fast on a Slack response. And I was like, that's true. He's just the quickest on the Slack response when someone sends out a message saying, what's your best movie of the year so far?
I would say that this was also his was also Van's number one, and Van added a note of sociocultural acknowledgement to Rob sniping, Jack O'Conneling down the rocky road to Dublin.
Here's a true story. I texted Rob after Jack told me what had already been taken. And I was like, wow, Rob, this is the first year you didn't take my number one pick. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, Van took it. He was like, I took Sinners. I was like, oh, I assumed Van got Sinners. I was like, you got Sinners? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'll go look in the mirror about that.
Okay.
But yeah, exactly. But he said this would have been his number 2. So we're all sort of on the same page about Black Bag.
Joanna, thank you. This was a great pick.
Thanks for having me.
Charles Holmes is here.
Yo,
One
what's up?
quarter of the Midnight Boys. Okay, best movie. Has it been a good movie year for you? How you feeling?
Yes, because I just saw F1, just saw Jurassic World's Rebirth. And
Okay, did you like Rebirth? Don't tell us any details, but did you like it because we haven't seen it yet?
Just like do a gladiator. Like put it out and then
Yeah!
That was a thumbs up for the listeners at home.
I will just say it is in the same, not even quality, but just like F1 and both of those movies. I'm just like, okay, we can make blockbusters. Like you can get from point A to point B to point C. And I'm just like, you didn't waste my time.
Okay.
Great.
I'm not saying that the movie has necessarily put rebirth life into the Jurassic Park series. But I'm just like, hey, it's better than the other fucking ones we were getting.
That's good.
Do you think that I need to rewatch any of the previous? I remember the events of Jurassic World 1993, but anything after that, do I need to rewatch to know where I am?
Literally the thing Van said walking out where he's just like, yeah, they just kind of Force Awakens it. And I'm like, that is okay. You just need to watch the originals and then you're like, all right, I get it.
You're a legendary hater too. So this is like a mixed positive is a pretty big positive for most.
I'm just at the point where I'm like, when I go to the movies, I'm just like, oh, I'm glad this is the only place I wanted to be. And a lot of the movies recently have just been like, guys, you have forgotten it. And F1 and Jurassic World, not perfect movies, but at least I'm like, movie stars doing shit. Hell yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm happy to hear that. So, but you did not pick either of those movies. No. What movie did you select?
I picked the most cursed comedy of the year, Friendship.
Yes, please. Let's talk about it.
I picked this one because I feel like it kind of located something. I'm a huge fan of comedy that I've been noticing that's been in the work of Nathan Fielder on The Rehearsal, Seth Rogen with The Studio, and Friendship, which is like either they all have a similar line or a similar moment where these like 40-plus-year-old men are like, what are the rules? And just kind of that all of these are about different things, but I'm like, oh, they're locating something that I'm seeing in my older friends and my younger friends and just everybody in general, which is just like, wait, how do I not get canceled? But also, how do I get my friend group? And also, how do I like not offend anybody? But and it's just all of these comedies and especially Friendship just locate it in such a funny, interesting, disturbing. It was almost a hard movie for me to watch.
Yeah.
Because I've had to have talks with my friends who are like, have been in relationships a long time and their friends have moved away. And they're like, how do I make friends? And I'm just like, oh, we got the version of this movie in 2009 with Paul Rudd and Jason Segel. And now we get the darker version with Tim Robinson.
So were you a Tim Robinson fan before this movie? Did you watch I Think You Should Leave?
Yes. Huge Tim Robinson
Detroiters?
fan.
Did you watch Detroiters?
Didn't watch Detroiters.
Okay.
Watched the Netflix show. And the funniest thing is like locating where Tim Robinson is in the like comedy firmament is when I was in LAX the last time, I saw Tim Robinson with his family. And he's the type of celebrity where like a person who lives in Highland Park like me, he's just like, Tim Robinson. But like nobody noticed him. All I saw, it was like a sketch. There was just a little old lady who didn't know how to use the airport kiosk to check out all of her stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like Tim Robinson be like, no, you got to do it like, no, you do it like this. And his teenagers are just like, and no one's pointing at him. No one is like, really you're funny. Tim Robinson. It's just like an old lady be like, fuck this guy. Who are you? And it's interesting where I'm like, he is a top 5 comedian in the United States in terms of like fame and getting stuff made, but he can still walk through LAX. Who this guy is.
Yeah, his ordinariness is like kind of a feature. That's sort of the point of a lot of what he's doing. But you said that a lot of your friends are maybe experiencing some of this angst that men have in 2025.
Before we started recording, we were having a conversation about Charles's weekend and the various, social conundrums that you found yourself in and people not knowing how to act and people not picking the right places.
I had a friendship weekend where I had a male friend who was turning 40 who doesn't drink as much. So he was having like a house party where we were like singing karaoke. And then it was like, by 10, 11, it was like all my 30 and 40-year-old friends who are single. And I'm just like, this is depressing. We're just fucking out of town, like getting fucked up. And that's how friendship felt, because the moment when they're like, oh, we're going to go see a Marvel. That is literally my life just in general. When I just meet, like, let's say I have like a girlfriend, she brings her boyfriend and is like, oh, what are we talking about? Hey, you see Deadpool and Wolverine? I'm like, yeah, pretty good. And I'm like, that's what kind of being 30, 40s is like starting to feel like.
So you do relate to this movie?
I feel like I've been the Tim Robinson character, especially because you knew when you hired me, I was in New York.
Yeah.
Moved here.
This is what I'm going to ask. You're a transplant. You have to make new friends.
Like they tell you we have all these movies, but like making friends in your 30s is the wildest experience ever.
Well, walk us through what your experience is, because we did talk about this when we talked about the movie on the show.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing. Men and women have to deal with this.
Yes, and I do think. I thought this was like a very funny movie, but I read it as a sociological text, so I'm with Charles, and it is very specifically about the challenges of men right now making friends. We actually do have a lot of how hard and miserable it is to have female friends movies.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys get your moment, and it seems fraught. I feel for you.
It's fraught, but it's also the intensity of two 30-plus-year-old men, or 3 or 4, finding someone this late in life that they connect with is it's a relationship in itself, because it's just like, oh, like all of us have the same story. It was like, oh, well, my best friend is back in New York or then in Chicago, or they're having kids. And it's just like locating someone where it's like, oh, I can ask you to go to the movies with me. I can ask you to get a beer with me. And then when you have that first fight, it's like, it's the funniest thing, because all your friends are like, do you need marriage counseling?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what this movie felt like, where I was just like, oh, all fights of men at this age are that dumb, where it makes no sense. It's just like, I broke some taboo. We try to meld our friend groups together.
Right.
And you're just like, oh, we're not in college anymore. We can't do that.
But also we don't actually like talk about it with words.
No.
You know, we only talk about it through unspoken like social rituals of ostracization and
one of the funny things in this movie is that there is one conversation that Paul Rudd has with Tim Robinson when he's basically like officially breaking up with him, right? He comes to the door and he confronts him and he's like, we had some fun, but it's over. And that was a very resonant moment for me, not because I've been broken up with as a friend, but
very quick to slip that in.
Not yet.
You're the one breaking. Are you the one breaking up? Are you the Paul Rudd?
I probably will more just like quietly ghost away over time. That's really more my move. But making new friends in my 40s, at least, is the closest I will ever get to dating. Like, I haven't really been dating in 20 plus years. So the rituals of, do I text you or do you text me? Or do I put myself out there and say, let's make a plan? That like the anxiety that comes from that. This movie is like that, to a T, like at 10 the whole time. And Tim Robinson also, look at the man's face right there. Like no one believes in that confidence. You know what I mean? It's like an absence of confidence that is rippling through, which I think is pretty representative of how a lot of guys feel right now.
And it's this awkward feeling of, I was thinking about the movie that Paul Rudd was in, I Love You, Man, which was like, that was at a time in like the Judd Apatow type, where it's just like, and even Jackass, and I remember watching that movie as a kid and having two thoughts. I'm like, fucking 40-year-olds don't have friends. They have to make new friends. I'm never going to be there. No. But also that feeling of like, we are no longer in that era of comedy where it's like Will Ferrell, we're going to be boys forever. Like, our buddy comedies aren't even like that. Our Step Brothers, our Superbads, that like, hey guys, we're teenage forever and we're never growing up. Friendship to me feels like a kind of wrinkle in that, which is just like, we're not teenagers anymore, but we're also not adults. Like, there's no actual, everything is broken down. The internet has broken anything down. Like,
it feels of the moment, and we've all forgotten how to speak to each other or how to be people.
Like, even his friends, like when he's at work and they're just like, I've had that feeling before where I'm like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. And I'm like, I don't end up in a garage, but I do we all just end up at this like third space where we're like, all right, can we go? Like, I'm just going to watch you play the drums. And that is like that to me isn't just like a male friendship thing. To your point, that is like, oh, we don't know how to like hang out. We don't know how to like go to a bar and talk to each other and have interests. It's like the only interest we have is like Marvel fucking movies.
It's a great pick. Any lingering feelings or concerns about men that you have in the aftermath of this relative success of this movie?
How do you feel about white men after watching Friendship?
Well, I do now watch it in the context of raising the next generation, so that's pretty troubling. And everything I do is to try to avoid a situation where my sons are in a garage screaming, "This is a Marvel spoiler, like Marvel spoiler-free zone. No Marvel spoilers."
Sorry, it's
coming.
It's coming.
But on the other hand, were they all to sing "My Boo" a cappella, with their closest friends,
you would enjoy that.
I would feel a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
I would feel a connection. So
I sang thinking about you at a 40-year-old's party, and it went terribly.
Okay,
Like,
do you have that falsetto?
I mean, I think I have the falsetto. The women at the party were just like, turn this shit off. Oh my gosh. But yeah, Friendship is
beautiful.
Great pick. Thank you, Charles.
Hell yeah.
So honored to be joined by the face of the Ringer, Mallory Rubin, as recently decreed by Van Lathan, Rachel Lindsay, and frankly, all of America.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Mel, how do you feel?
I feel that we all know the truth, which is that every single person alive thought it should be Chris, except for Rachel. So I'd like to say thank you to Rachel.
True story. I ran into Rachel on the way in today. She's returned to the United States of America, and she was unashamed of her decision making. And I think she feels good about making a point to Chris that he's not all he's always cracked up to be.
Wow.
There's some flaws in the design, and you filled those flaws, Mel.
Was this the same conversation where we were briefly confused as the same person because of the hair length?
Because you were white women, I think is why.
Sure, right, yeah.
Listen, I've been saying it since little tiny headshots were first introduced on The Ringer a decade ago, and since our voices started making it out into the world. Being confused for Amanda Dobbins is the honor of a lifetime.
I feel similarly. Except for when people
have no complaints.
Come in and yell at me about sports takes that I don't really understand, or being like, "You got this wrong. The shield that someone uses in something," and I'm like, "Damn, I don't know. Take it up with Mal."
Every now and then I get some very confusing messages about a celebrity culture thing that I'm like, did I have a stroke and I have no recollection of having said this in a public forum, which is entirely possible. I was just complaining to you both before we started about my back pain. So I guess I'm at that age. And then I realized, oh no, this must be something Amanda said on Jam Session.
You will always be two beautiful individual snowflakes to me.
Thank you so much.
And you are specific.
Thank you.
And
really
dissolving in my hand at all times.
Yeah, that's how we both feel about it too. Yeah, but I would like to thank thank Van and Rachel, the Thought Warriors, and everyone else who's just waiting a year for Chris to receive the trophy that we all know he deserves. Yeah.
Okay, Mel. Best movies of the year. Good movie year. Are you enjoying it? Bad movie year. You're hating it. You're having a blast.
No, having a great time. Yeah, I have been to the movie theater a lot recently, which I know, you guys both know me very well. I'm a real, unless absolutely forced to do the contrary, I'll stay at home in pajamas for as long as humanly possible. But it's been really fun to go to the theater and, explore some different confections at the concession stand and test out some different screens. I've been on a real Dolby kick.
Okay.
That's been fun.
Great.
I'm having a blast with Dolby. Listen, I managed at the last second to snag, and after texting you guys bitching about the fact that I could not find such a ticket, I managed to snag, in response to the urgent request from Megan Schuster to join her on the Ringer F1 show to talk about F1 the movie, I managed to snag an IMAX ticket. It's just fun to go to the movies and see movies on a big screen. That's how I'm feeling about it.
Movies are back.
Yeah,
they're really back. And it's just wonderful.
And one way you know that they're back is that we are now regularly getting screenshots of seating charts.
I've been sending a lot of those. I should apologize
Mallory
for that.
At various theaters around Los Angeles. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if that's where Mallory is.
Here's what I'm prepared to say right now. I am willing to stop sending you screenshots of various open or taken seats. And in exchange, from now through next March, we'll only text you about Project Hail Mary.
Listen, Open. We like.
Great.
I can't even tell you. So we saw that at CinemaCon. Okay, let me set the scene for you by saying that it was an evening presentation in Las Vegas, and so I had exactly 2 Negronis, and then I sat down in my seat, and then it was a cold open. No one came out. No one introduced anything. They knew they had it so hard that they just they gave us the trailer for Project Hail Mary. And then Ryan Gosling was there in front of us upon the stage.
Incredible.
And I felt my soul leave my body briefly.
Back in April, we were not back at the movies when we went there. And then when they showed that, I was like, I think this is the moment when we turn the corner. And lo and behold, we have turned the corner and we have good movies now, which is very exciting. So what movie did you choose, Mal?
I chose a very just gentle, calm,
subtle.
Yeah, a quiet family drama.
For all family film called 28 Years Later. The latest from Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, back together again, reunited in the 28 verse. I thought this movie was absolutely sensational. I loved it. And I loved the pod that the two of you and Chris did about it. I had a blast talking to Joe about it. I really love 28 Days Later, as many do. I have fun every so often watching the second film in the franchise that I think has largely been rendered moot by this third installment. So I don't know how often I'll be revisiting it in the future. But I really just I love Alex Garland movies because every now and then one of them I consider just an absolute genuine masterpiece, Ex Machina, etc. And even the Garland stories, whether it's something that he's directing, showrunning, writing, that don't work for me, that I don't find myself enjoying, and that maybe even I am actively in some way repelled by, they just take root in me and lead me to such a contemplative state that I admire basically everything that he does as a result of that. And I just thought that this was a visually stunning return to this world, great cast. Alfie Williams as Spike, holy fuck. I had absolutely no idea that young Spike was going to be basically the main character in the movie, and I thought that he was sensational. Ray Fiennes, one of the great loves of my life. What an absolute joy to be in the Bone Temple with him, always in more ways than one. And I just thought that this movie was exceptional, genuinely exceptional.
You know what? Wow. Listen, you don't miss him. You don't miss a step, Mallory.
Mal goes to the Bone Temple. Love it.
Thanks.
How did I not see that coming? We love this movie too, and I'm kind of surprised a little bit by the overwhelming positive reaction to it. I know that there's a lot of players involved that we have a lot of warm feelings towards, but it is quite an audacious movie. I mean, it's a real tonal clash. It's really violent. It's really crazy. The even the zombie stuff is quite intense and explicit, I would say. There's zombie dick, there's zombie birth, there's all kinds of things that we're kind of we're entering the final stage of zombie storytelling, I feel, in some ways. I also think, Mal, you covered The Last of Us really closely, and I wonder if this movie operates in kind of an opposite emotional tenor to that TV series, which I think people were kind of a little bit more mixed on the second season, and so the thrilling thrash of 28 Years Later might have been a little bit of a bomb in the aftermath of that season. What do you think?
Great point and question. I think that in general, in any sort of, I know that the filmmakers would not want us to use the term zombie, but in any sort of dystopian zombie tale featuring the infected, you're going to hit at some point inevitably, I think, a moment where you are confronting the fact that the real monsters are other people, right? That is a core aspect of this type of genre storytelling. And so, as is always the case with any type of story, the degree of success is going to be determined by the execution and how compelled we are by the relationships inside of the story. Now, in 28 Days Later, when we watch Cillian Murphy's character Jim wake up, that's another type of story I really love. That is more about found family, right? Rooting yourself in an unexpected relationship so that you can make it forward another day. I would say that is more akin ultimately to how we enter Last of Us. 28 years later, everything that happens on Holy Island, the Causeway, obviously, again, this is just visually astonishing as a place to set this film. But that question about then, what community have you built? and what are you trying to protect and why, and what do the inhabitants of that world even like understand about it? I thought there are plenty of comps there, I think, between Last of Us, whether it's the stretch in Jackson, Wyoming or elsewhere, where like the question of what your role in sustaining a community is, and then how your perspective shifts when you walk outside the walls. I thought that was also amazing. Like, as you noted, this is a deeply explicit and violent story, but on some level, it is like a coming of age story, and it is a story about revelations and awakenings, whether that is Spike having to confront, his father being a liar, or confront who or what might be waiting just a few strides further across a given cresting hill. When your perspective is that locked into one place, and that place equates to the ability to sustain human life, like that's just a really fascinating setting and dynamic for a film. And then I thought like the thing that I think is not similar between this at all and Last of Us is like in Last of Us, not much of a spoiler, this is the premise of the story, like the cordyceps infection just takes over the world, and that's it. To open this movie, and again, this is like where the retconning to the second film takes place, because that ends with like,
right.
We go to Paris and it's like, fuck, oh no, whoops. And the idea here that the rest of the world has just quarantined the United Kingdom and left everybody there to like either figure it out or not, I found so unbelievably harrowing, and in some ways much more disturbing than seeing like a spinal column ripped out of a body. It was just like, what that says about people and humanity that's like real Garland stuff to me.
And the current geopolitical state of the world. Yeah. It has both, right? It has spinal columns and it has ideas. I do think some people still just go to the movies for the spinal columns and for zombie dick. And if you go for that
Shout
reason,
out Samson, great zombie dick.
You are getting your money's worth. And then maybe you leave with, some expanded ideas about, how we live in a society.
Mm-hmm.
But
we do live in a society.
We live in a society. Yeah.
We do. The Alex Garland movies do be saying that. They do be saying we live in a society, and they have incredible foresight.
But we don't know how. And we don't always understand
They don't always give us the conclusions to those societies. But this is right near the top for me in terms of the first 6 months of the year. This is probably my second favorite movie of the year right now. Ooh. And it's a great pick. And I'm just, as somebody whose origin story of Los Angeles is very neatly tied up in the movie Sunshine, it's very excited. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited that they're still working together and that this is still something that, they can make possible at the movies. And I'm quite curious to see if we're definitely getting the second one in January.
Right.
The third one is a little TBD based on the performance of the movie, I guess.
And the second one is also, with respect to Nia DaCosta, not Danny Boyle and Alex Garland working together.
Correct.
And it's not, two people bringing out the best in each other. So
let's enjoy this while we have it.
Exactly.
Mal, great pick. Great to see you. Listen to Mal on House of R, the F1 podcast here at The Ringer. What else are you on these days?
Who knows? Who knows? Just waiting to be invited to chat with my friends on Big Pick and The Watch, basically.
Okay. Have you been on The Watch? When was the last time you were on The Watch?
Great question. Something for Chris to reflect on.
Sounds like an Andy problem. I think Andy's blocking you.
You want to come on Jam Session? Before the summer's out? You want to bring all the celebrity DMs to the table? We can talk it out.
Sure. Yeah, I would be thrilled. I don't know if I'm equipped to come on Jam Session, but I would be delighted. I would be delighted to try. And it's always a pleasure and a thrill to be with you both. Thanks for having me. I look forward to being back at the movies with you both and with Jack O'Connell at the start of next year.
Okay. No spoilers. Thanks, Mel.
Bye, guys.
Mean Pod Guy returns. Adam Nayman, our pal, critic par excellence, is here to talk about the best movie of the year so far. So, do you want to share any of your runners up before you give us your pick?
I think I saw one of them the other day. Wrote about it for the site, which is 28 years later. What an impressive piece of filmmaking.
Pretty darn good.
I know you guys have talked over it, and there'll be more to say about it as the year goes on. But it's very moving and goofy and fun, and I did not, I guess I knew Danny Boyle had it in him because these exact people did make this exact movie or a version of it 20 years ago, but I didn't know they still had it in them. It's really good.
Little redemption for your guy, Alex Garland, who you've been just beating up on over the years.
You know what? I think it's just about the best script he's written. And I will say to not to Alex Garland, but about the script, that is a smart, emotional, resonant piece of screenwriting. And it deals with aspects of history and culture in ways that are very smart. And I just gotta give it up.
Very happy to hear you say that. Okay, well, what did you choose and how did you decide on the film that you chose?
Well, I had some taken away from me by, other guests talking, what's covered. And then the only reason I'm not going to talk about The Shrouds by David Cronenberg is we talked about it already. And I don't want the bit to be, he only talks about the Toronto filmmaker. For the record, if I'm making I think I'm doing a half-year list for this site. That's the movie of the year and probably will be for the end of the year for me. But we've done that. So, whether it's 28 years later or The Shrouds or Friendship, these are movies that I've kind of talked about on the site already. So I wanted to talk about one and to cheat, a second movie, which I think I'm even more interested to argue with you about.
Okay.
That even if I wrote about them elsewhere, I didn't write about for Ringer. So my real pick, which I think will also be on my year-end 10 and just by a absolutely amazing filmmakers, Caught by the Tides by the Chinese director Jia Zhangke, one of the great contemporary filmmakers who's repurposed and reused and remixed 20 years of some of his, I guess, behind the scenes footage or alternate takes or unused scenes. It's really interesting to read about what the material is. But he's taken it and made an entirely new film out of it, which shows in some ways how similar his movies are narratively. He's interested in movies about, couples that break up or become separated and one kind of pursues the other across the country. He uses the same actors. But it's also a film that, because it's essentially shot in real time, has been compared to people, and it's a different kind of project, but it's like Boyhood, the Linklater movie, where you just simply see time at work over a 20-year period. And so it's not production design, it's not a period piece, it's just all the actual gradations of fashion and music and technology. And it narrates this incredible history of a country kind of changing, where even if in the foreground you have this very minimal plot of a woman sort of trying to find her boyfriend who has left her in this small town and kind of abandoned her, and she's sort of chasing after him. The plot is very simple. It's almost in a way, a silent film. There's very little dialogue in it. A lot of the story is told through text, but the background is sort of the protagonist. And even just the way the third part of the film shows you 21st century technology and the way that the formats that the movie itself is being shot on, the different levels of film and digital video, like every second of it is just completely compelling on that level. So yeah, a very well-reviewed film, played at festivals last year, played at Cannes. It's definitely a kind of art house pick. But, I think Jia's career is sort of magnificent, and seeing him revisit that career in the space of this one kind of shape-shifting, time-traveling movie is going to make my year-end list. You saw it and liked it?
I haven't seen it yet. It has somehow eluded me through all the festival season. And I want to say that one of the very first movies that we talked about on this show was Ash's Purest White. And this is his first movie since that movie. That was 2018, right around when you started coming on. And I love that film. And I've seen most of his movies in the 21st century, but I definitely have not seen the early films and not even the early work when he started shooting this movie. So the thing I wanted to ask you about for people who are listening at home and thinking about this, it would be very easy to start with A Touch of Sin or Mountains May Depart. He's made a number of acclaimed movies in the last 15 years. Can you watch this new film and feel like you're getting it, feel like you're getting its depth and you're like a deeper understanding of it if you haven't seen the last 5 Jia movies?
It's a good question because honestly, kind of not. Kind of yes, kind of no, because, the way he shoots and the way he frames, let's say, landscapes is inherently compelling. And Zhao Tao, his consistent star, his creative collaborator, his life partner, one of the most beautiful and accomplished and expressive actresses I've ever seen. Just watching her is amazing. So I don't know if someone would watch Caught by the Tides fresh. Like, I don't think they'd be bored. I think that it has that narrative hook. It has this underlying emotionalism. It is compelling, even if you haven't seen his other movies. If you understand that it is shot over a 20-year period, you'll be alert to all that stuff. But the nostalgia and the sense of just seeing an entire career and an artistic lifetime kind of distilled into 2 hours, I think that would be missing. So what I would say to your question is, it's kind of a hard movie maybe to watch cold, but that means everyone should just go watch a couple of other genre movies and then you can watch this one. And in that case, you can never run out of good ones. I mean, most of them are amazing. Pickpocket, The World, Unknown Pleasures. There's a great movie he made in 2006 called Still Life, which is about the Three Gorges Dam project, and a big chunk of Caught by the Tides. I think the biggest chunk of the movie is footage from that period in 2006, where you essentially just see this entire community on the shores of the Yangtze River just basically wash away. And it's not a natural disaster. It's a man-made construction project. And if you've ever just wondered, well, what does displacement look like? I mean, this is documentary footage of what that kind of wide-scale displacement looks like. And it has an eerie feeling of a kind of future prophecy as well. Three Gorges Dam isn't climate change exactly, but it gives a little snapshot of what some things might look like going forward. And, he's so attuned to the way that history works. The title of the movie is about history. It's about that idea of being caught up in this kind of larger, almost kind of oceanic pattern. And parts of the movie are very funny. It actually has my favorite use of like robots and AI in any movie that I've seen this year. There's a whole passage toward the end that's kind of like a live action version of WALL-E, like a live action kind of documentary version of WALL-E. And the whole last part was shot during COVID as well. So again, reality never kind of totally disappears in his work. And I think this got the widest distribution of any of his movies because it came out via Sideshow. So they were pushing it. He traveled with the film. He did Q&As in the US. It had a good trailer. So while it's never going to be as big a movie on this kind of year-end or half-year-end list as talking about, F1, it is possible that people could see it. It's not asking too much of people to seek it out and find it when it's on streaming.
It's a great recommendation. I would imagine it's going to come to the Criterion channel at some point, probably in the fall, I would guess. And it may be still kicking around in some art houses out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Criterion's a good guess. And again, I think one of the nice things about this show is you talk about, movies of all kinds. You're always very, conscientious about telling people to see, that which is not all that immediately or instantly available. So I hope that people who are listening are motivated and curious to check it out. The other movie I want to talk to you about is one that you gave 2.5 stars on Letterboxd, and I like far more than you.
Let's fight. What is it?
No, we'll discuss, which is Jaume Collet-Serra's A Woman in the Yard.
Oh yeah,
which I like a lot, and I know that I try not to say that it's a bit, because auteurism isn't a bit. Like if auteurism is a problem, then we have a big problem. But I love this filmmaker, and I liked this way more than his Netflix baggage claim movie, which I thought was kind of fun and impersonal. This one I thought was really emotional, expressive, kind of formally gorgeous horror. And you, my friend, were not on board. We're not really. You weren't fully on board the JCS Express on this one.
Yeah, broadly speaking, I'm a big fan of JCS. He was on this show some years ago. I liked talking to him. He's obviously an incredibly dynamic, formal filmmaker. He's got great aesthetics. He tries things in studio movies that very few filmmakers would consider trying. And he's an assignment director. He's someone you call when you've got a nifty script that is very fungible for somebody with some big ideas. I just thought The Woman in the Yard was yet another studio horror programmer shot in one location that was like a little bit more bereft of ideas than I wanted it to be, and a little bit too stuck on the kind of post-trauma narrative train that just way too much horror is attached to right now. And so it just didn't feel like I liked the moves he was making in the movie, and I felt like a lot of the strategy was immersive, but I didn't think the script was very good. And I'm usually a very big Daniel Deadweiler fan, but I just thought that character was like deeply one-dimensional. And so I was just a little bit down on it. As you know, I don't really talk too much about movies that I'm really down on, even especially from filmmakers who I actually broadly like their work. But JCS, I don't know, it's been kind of a weird 5 or 6 years for me. He got linked up with The Rock. I didn't really like what came out of that. I also was not huge on Carry On. I thought it was fine.
Also an assignment movie.
Very, very much.
You know?
Very much.
And it wore that assignment movie thing, I think, maybe not intentionally, but it was kind of a movie about someone who was like trying to buy into the program.
Yes.
It's like I really want to be a cop. And it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know that that's what I want to see a movie about at the moment. But I thought what I liked about Women in the Yard, and it's interesting, it's not to disagree, but just to develop the idea of Deadweiler. There was an interview, I think Robert Sweeney did, a great critic, with the writer of the film, and I did not know how invested Deadweiler was in the project, like very much a driving kind of creative force within it. And I believe that it's her artwork in the film with the character. I mean, it's not really a movie about vocation. It's about a woman in the yard that haunts a family. But I mean, her character is a painter. And there's a lot of this kind of, the art direction of the film, or the mise en scène of the movie, is dominated by these paintings. And something about that, when I heard about it, it tied to what I felt was something pretty inhabited about Deadweiler's performance. And I loved the way that she interacted with the other actress within the cast, the kind of physical interaction they have towards the end of the movie, this idea of a manifestation of grief or kind of impulses. I don't want to spoil the movie, but I just loved watching the way he choreographed the bodies and the physicality of these actresses in the home stretch. I thought, more than scary, it was kind of in a horror register that I respond to, which was kind of like a melancholy horror movie. It's a very sad movie.
It is a very sad movie. It is notably shot by Pavel Pogoreski, who shot the last three Ari Aster movies, and you can feel it. There's a sequence in the attic where I'm like, that's part of what I was holding against it. I'm like, this is kind of just Hereditary for Blumhouse, you know? Like, I don't know that it was as developed as I wanted it to be, Adam.
I think that, I mean, it's fair. I wouldn't have brought it up if I didn't think, you know, I read your very smart Letterboxd piece. That's why I brought it up. But when we're talking about form, I mean, I think for me, the form in this one carries, you know, and I think it is true that, you know, in some ways he's kind of an impersonal director, an assignment-based director. But to me, he connected to something in that character and that performance and that idea maybe of using a very expressive visual form to make a movie about a character who is sort of trying to channel something through their own kind of artwork. I mean, I don't want to make ridiculous claims for it, but with the exception of the Boyle film, of all the studio horror I've watched this year, I think I liked it the most. Although I had a very good time last night at Megan 2.0.
Haven't seen it yet.
Which is basically Terminator 2 for the Megan movies. And a lot of fun. The audience I saw with was going bonkers. They thought it was hilarious.
That's great to hear. I'm going to see it this weekend, so I'm happy about that.
That's my report from the trenches.
Thank you very much. I'll have you know JCS is next making a remake of Cliffhanger starring Lily James. So,
well, and in between there too, though, there's something called Play Dead. I saw Juliette Gariepi from our favorite film Red Rooms posted that she just made a movie with JCS. So I'm like, that's encouraging as well.
That is very exciting.
There's the other thing I like with the guy. He just keeps working.
He does. He's working tirelessly to get back to the extraordinary highs of Orphan. And he may never get there, but may he try forever.
I love Orphan very much. When I saw Orphan back in 2009, the statute of limitations on spoilers for Orphan, I think, is over, right? We can say what happens at the end. So like when Vera Farmiga like kicks her kid into the ice and kills her or whatever, someone in the audience yelled, and I will never forget it. This woman yelled, "That's fucking right," in the middle of the movie theater. And I was just like, yeah. Oh,
that's cinema, Adam.
That's cinema. That's what I want to yell anytime at a movie.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you chipping in on this one.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Good to see you.
All right, we're joined by a very special guest. It's my little sister, Grace Fennessey. Grace, what's up?
Nothing much. I'm excited to be here.
So
this isn't your first time on the podcast, but it might be your first YouTube.
Oh, yeah. It's my first time on camera.
Welcome to hell.
How do you feel about it?
I liked being in a room with no camera, but this is new and exciting.
So. You are a full 20 some odd years younger than us.
Yeah.
So you're in slightly better standing visually. Audio, we'll see.
Sure.
You know? Do you have takes? Do you have strong feelings about the year in movies in 2025?
I think so.
Okay.
I looked at my Letterboxd and I've seen like 12 of the new movies from 2025. So
How do you determine what you want to go see at this stage of your life? You just graduated from college. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
You are a very avid movie watcher.
Yes.
Which your followers on Letterboxd will know. But going to the movie theater, how do you choose?
It's kind of just who will see what with me, because I will see kind of anything in theaters. So I have an AMC membership, so that's my
Okay.
I
got it.
Love it.
No free
love
ads, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's
I do too.
I have to convince people to go, but I will see anything. I love sitting and watching trailers and getting excited for every movie that's coming out.
Do you find that your friends are mostly not interested in going to the movies at this point? Like, does your boyfriend want to go to the movies? Like, how does it work?
My boyfriend goes to like any movie I want to see because he's good. But
yeah, those are the rules.
Yeah, you kind of have to. But certain friends I have to like really pull to go see movies.
What do they watch?
Well, I got one of my best friends to go see Materialist with me because I was like, she would like a romance movie. But when I took her to see Mickey 17, she was not about that.
Okay.
Interesting.
So it kind of just depends on the genre of each person.
Do you have to sell them on the story?
Yes.
Or is genre enough?
I think I have to sell on story too. Or like who's in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
who's
no,
a draw? Like,
I think Pedro is a big draw for some people.
sure. That's
Like,
Pedro Pascal
yes.
for those of you watching at home. Yeah.
She's on a first name basis
Yeah.
with
No, it's
Pedro.
me, Pedro.
Pedro has a big summer coming up.
Mhm.
So
Best thing that could have happened.
Amanda blasphemed his good name
I
in
was
Materialist.
very clear, both on the podcast and to Grace last night at dinner, that I respect Pedro Pascal as a person. I just did not think he worked in Materialists.
He is also going to be in Eddington and Fantastic Four First Steps, and he just concluded his run on The Last of Us Season 2.
Yeah.
And next year he'll be in The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Mhm.
And he has something else. What am I forgetting? He's freaking everywhere. And he's your fave and he's like a 50-year-old man. What's going on with that?
Well, I'm eating it up that he's everywhere.
Okay.
That is the best thing that could have
Yeah.
happened. I watched him first in The Last of Us and I was like, wow, this guy's amazing.
That's how you connected with him in the
Yes.
first place. Okay.
And then after that, I was like, I need to watch everything he's in. So I didn't get to everything, but
I
watched.
was going to say, does The Mandalorian count when you can't see him?
Yes, I did watch that show because I was
Okay.
like, I need to see more of him. But no, it actually wasn't him, but presence, essence.
So a Pedro movie is not at the top of your list. Some movies were taken before you could choose your favorite from this year. So like you
Yes.
couldn't take Sinners, for example, because
Heartbreaking.
someone took Sinners. Sinners was
Mhm.
taken from everyone
Yeah.
by Rob Mahoney.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah, he is
I figured that would
he's a
happen.
thief. I think most people on this episode would have taken Sinners.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mickey 17.
Yes.
That was on your long list. You liked it. You
I did
liked it
like
maybe
it.
even more than we did.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was my favorite, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time. I left and I was like, all right, good movie.
Okay. What else was on your list?
Materialists.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I feel like that's not a popular take, but
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about it.
I think we're coming back around.
Okay,
You can lead
cool,
us
cool.
there. You wanna speak to the people?
yes. So one of my problems with seeing like people's reaction to it was everyone was saying it was marketed as a rom-com.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that. So like that wasn't a problem for me when I left and they were like, it wasn't a rom-com. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a romance movie.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of my main problems. Also, broke man propaganda
Yeah.
is people who are very angry about that, where they're like, why'd she end up with the broke guy? Because she didn't love Pedro Pascal.
Right. Yeah.
So that
Because
was like,
they had zero chemistry, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Is that a feature or a bug in the film?
I think it can be both
Okay.
in this case,
Okay.
where I think maybe they could have communicated some other things along with the lack of chemistry. But
I had never heard the phrase poverty propaganda before
Okay.
this film came out, and then when you came over the other day, and it was one of the first things you said to me
Yeah.
during your trip that you were just like, this broke man propaganda thing, I don't get it. And
making me so
I
angry.
felt relieved because when I saw poverty propaganda, is that an active line of discourse
well, like,
in online culture right
I
now? I
mean,
know I'm 100 years old, but
yeah.
like, are there people who are like, it's very important for you to love a poor person? I get it. It's like justification for being in a relationship.
Yeah.
I understand the line of thought, but is that an active discussion point among people when they're choosing their partners?
I mean, listen, I just don't think you should go on TikTok. You know,
I
it's
didn't.
It's like what the girlies are out here making names for themselves, coining terms. The discourse has gone all sorts of ways. So sure, there are people like posting about anything that under the sun at this
Okay.
point.
Do you think about the wealth of your partner?
I mean, I feel like the problem with everyone's reaction with it is I wouldn't want to date Chris Evans in that movie where he really has nothing, like has zero money. So I understand that.
Yeah, nobody wants to go to that apartment.
Okay,
Yeah, that's my nightmare personally. But
what about it as a proud, independent woman? You could also help evolve his circumstances.
yeah, I think that's like
That seems reasonable.
Yes, but she's only making $80,000 a year.
Well,
so.
we know that doesn't make sense. That was one of my primary issues with the film is that she's got a lovely apartment in New York and she makes $80,000 a year as a matchmaker. I'm not.
And the fashion does not also align with that.
She's very well dressed. Yeah. Okay, so Materialist is not your pick.
It's not my pick, no.
Though you liked it.
I did like it, but I wouldn't say like top of 2025.
When you first started coming on the show, you were deep in the MCU.
Yes.
That was your favorite thing, I think, in the world.
That was peak time.
And I felt like it has slipped away from you a little bit as it has slipped in culture. However, what movie did you pick?
I chose Thunderbolts because I think Thunderbolts is a return to form for Marvel.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So I've been kind of out on Marvel since like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Okay.
But
Amanda's favorite.
Is that's the three of them?
Yes.
And you didn't like that?
No, I did love that.
Okay, but after that.
After that is kind of when it started slipping. Every once in a while you get like one movie where I was like, hey, that's pretty good. Okay. This I think is hopeful because I think it picked up on mistakes that they made in the past of introducing characters and then never seeing them again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But these characters, they like, okay, let's bring back the ones people like, the ones people didn't like, and put them together. And I think it made a good team, if that makes sense.
What was your favorite part?
Favorite part, I think, was the dynamic. If you follow me on Letterboxd, you know I'm a big fan of found family. And that was like the whole trope of the movie.
Yeah.
So that really did it for me. But,
interesting. Okay. So when you say if you follow me on Letterboxd, you mean you have like lists of like my favorite found family movies?
You don't follow her on Letterboxd?
No, I do. But I don't. I've never seen you publish a list. I've only seen you log movies.
No, but if a movie is a found family, that's probably in my reviews. Like, it's a found family movie.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
You're not doing the work, Sean.
Yeah, you're not reading my reviews.
I'm doing the work by having you here right now to communicate about your love for found family movies. I had a very similar reaction to Thunderbolts, and you were more positive on it than I think even you expected to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Marvel maybe never had me, so then they lost me a very long time ago. But I thought it was far and away just technically, it was competent and enjoyable in a way that most of the recent movies have just kind of been impenetrable to me.
As a movie fan, do you follow the fact that the movie was considered somewhat of a disappointment at the box office and then the kind of like ramifications of things like that? Or do you just not care about those things?
No, see, that actually did make me disappointed because I was like, it should have done better, but people are already out on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, Marvel movie, don't care. But I'm like, no, this was a good one. Like, it deserved better.
Did you see that with friends?
I saw it with my boyfriend.
Okay.
Yes.
What did he think?
He loved it. We walked out and we're like, that was so great. We just talked about it the entire car ride home.
Would he go on his own? Or
yes, for sure.
He would have seen it on his own.
I had to tell him to wait for me.
Oh,
because I was
interesting.
still at school and I was coming back. I was like, wait until I come home. You have to.
Okay, so on the drive here to the office today, we were going through the checklist of young, hot male actors and like, who are you in on, who are you out on?
Great, okay.
Right? So we were talking about, out on a Lordy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, not a big... interesting. Why?
My introduction to him was the Kissing Booth movies.
Sure. Okay.
So then,
I get this with a lot of people slightly older than you and Austin Butler, where they're like, yeah, we saw Disney, so we don't need it.
So now
anymore.
I'm not like, you're a heartthrob?
Yeah.
And you feel the same way about Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not one of your guys. You love Timmy.
Love Timmy.
Sure. Yeah. Who doesn't?
I love Timmy.
Yeah.
Who else did I mention? We mentioned Joseph Quinn. You were kind of on Joseph Quinn.
I feel like he just keeps appearing.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, oh, I hate that guy. But he
hasn't found like a stickiness. Yeah, I agree.
So the person I want to ask about then relates to Thunderbolts is Sentry himself, Lewis Pullman.
See, I don't think I knew him before that movie.
Okay.
Hearing the name, I thought I did, but whatever. But I thought he was a great introduction. I'm going back to the team itself, where it was so many different characters, where you have Bucky Barnes, well-loved. People were going to see that movie just for him. Then you have other characters like Yelena, newer character, but has developed a fan base.
Yep.
And Florence Pugh also. So.
Oh, of course. But then you're introducing new characters and like characters that maybe you didn't like. And I think that worked really well. So even the Bob character, he was just a sweet little guy compared to all these assholes. Like, I think that was a great addition.
Bob is his like human character. He's also Bob in Top Gun Maverick, so that's confusing for me.
He is. And I do think that was semi-purposeful, even though that character was originally supposed to be played by Steven Yeun.
Oh.
And then he
Oh,
came
I
out of
didn't
the
know that.
movie
Okay.
and Lewis Pullman went in. And then Lewis Pullman also started dating Kai Gerber.
Which I think what we're
That's
learning
me
from
learning
Grace.
from Amanda.
Yeah, but do you know that Kaya Gerber also dated Jacob Elordi and Austin Butler? So what we're learning
Wow.
is that Grace and Kaya Gerber do not have the same taste in men, and that's okay.
Wow.
You know,
Kai
there are
Gerber
many
putting
fish
up
in the
numbers.
sea.
Damn.
Yeah, well,
She's
she's
like Will Chamberlain.
she's Kaya Gerber.
That's
so,
great.
you know,
That's good for her.
I like if that can't work out, then
Okay.
you know things are screwed for all of us.
So you're excited about Fantastic Four first episode. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I didn't realize this, but after that movie comes out in about 3 weeks, there's not another Marvel movie for 18 months.
Doomsday, right?
Doomsday, the next Avengers movie, which is the
they're
big
filming
event.
right now.
They're filming right
in
now
Romania.
in Europe somewhere.
Okay.
And Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Dr.
Yeah.
Doom. We'll see. I have been peddling the it's kind of over and we're getting all the signs that it's over. Obviously, a lot is riding on an Avengers movie. All the Avengers movies make $1 billion.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. has been at the center of the MCU for 15, 20, almost 20 years. Are you still excited? I can't wait to see what they do with these stories.
I am very excited. I wouldn't compare it to that high school excitement of Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, but it's still I think it's a hopeful excited.
Okay.
Where the other was this will be amazing, and I can't wait. I really hope this works out because I want it to. And Thunderbolts gave me that hope, and Fantastic Four, I will be there day of. Can't wait. But if that's not good, that'll be a little tough.
And where's your head at with Doomsday?
Just trying to remember who's who, you know?
Cool. Great.
And looking for my empty director's chair with my name on it.
I wanted to ask you one last question before we go. So Amanda and I have been doing this 25 for 25 gimmick all year.
Yeah.
25 movies across the century.
Sure.
One film per director.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay.
So that's been a restriction that we have. So,
Okay.
Amanda wanted to put 14 Nancy Myers movies. I was like, how about just one? So we got one on there. Your number one movie of the century, if you had to choose one, what would it be?
I would choose Knives Out.
Okay.
That would be my choice.
So why?
That movie, okay, one, Chris Evans is in it. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to just put that right there.
Good.
Lay it on the table.
This podcast has been really disrespectful to him. And I think, you're making amends for your brother's misdeeds.
He's very good in that movie.
Yeah. Great sweater.
Yep.
Great sweater.
Yeah.
Anyways, no, I love that movie because I don't know. I really enjoy a murder mystery type beat. But the lighting, it feels lighter, which I don't know how to make that make sense. But I don't know. The characters are just so eccentric where you're I kind of hate you, but you're also very entertaining. I think that's also a great cast. What else do I love about that movie? I don't know. I just think it's fun. It's fun. The string instruments, the music in the background is I love it. I don't know.
Did you like 2, Glass Onion? So you're excited for 3.
Can't wait.
Wake Up Dead Man, just coming out this winter.
I wish I could think of movies that are similar to it, but there's a certain vibe in my head of those movies that not much else matches.
So when Ryan Johnson was on this podcast talking about Knives Out, which was 2017, he recommended a movie called The Last of Sheila, which is a movie I'll recommend to you right now to check out, which is clearly a big inspiration point. And it has that same feeling of everyone on this boat sucks. Everyone who worked on this movie likes Agatha Christie.
Right.
There's a murder mystery.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny and light, even though people get killed.
Yes.
So
love
check that out.
Good jokes.
Yeah.
Murder mystery.
Beautiful people.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Nice sweaters.
And it's on location as well. So nice places. Maybe even nicer than the house.
Knives Out. We haven't talked about it too much recently.
Yeah, I think that we weren't as enthusiastic about Glass Onion as you were.
Okay.
And so that sort of, and it has a pre-pandemic feeling to all of it. And also the original does, and also a $300 million Netflix deal.
Yes.
So we're living in a Knives Out 2 world now.
Yes,
and
we are.
We haven't, but she's right. It's Chris Evans, very early on into Armas. Who else is in that?
Jamie Lee Curtis, Daniel Craig,
Christopher
Lakeith
Plummer.
Stanfield.
It's
incredible
a great cast.
cast.
And it's very
Michael Shannon, Toni Collette. It's a crazy cast.
Yeah, you're right. It's fun. It's it knows what it wants to do and is having a lot of fun doing it, which, it's like a machine, you know, just like an Agatha Christie mystery, which I enjoy.
Also, I'm not giving credit to Daniel Craig here. He is like the central point of those movies where he's that traditional, I feel like 1950s movie detective, but modernized. And I'm like, he's just an old man. He's so cute. Like I love great addition.
He's in his old man phase. How do you feel about that?
Listen, you know, we have different seasons for different people. That's okay. I think that he's very handsome. So, but that's fine. I also am a fan of Jacob Elordi and Austin Butler. So, you know.
Women can't really have it all.
Yeah.
From 25-year-olds to 55-year-olds. Grace, where can we find you? Promote yourself.
Oh, goodness.
You want the letterbox public? If you don't, you don't have to. Go ahead.
My letterbox is very public. Grace Fennessey. I think that's just it.
Okay.
And then I guess that's really it.
Thank you, Grace.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Okay, we're here with producer par excellence, Jack Sanders.
You look nervous. Undo your arms.
Are you nervous?
I wasn't nervous at all. I'm going to cut this, by the way, but that's okay.
It's all body language. It's all body language. If you were in a race car, you wouldn't have your arms crossed.
That's true.
You'd have your hands on the steering wheel, ready to drive through your take. So, your favorite movie of the year so far?
F1.
Okay. Why?
I want to engage in something that might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but I think it will make sense.
Okay.
Does this movie have one of the least impressive Brad Pitt performances of his career? I would say yes.
Yes.
I would as well.
Is this a $350 million F1 commercial? I would say yes.
The only question there is if that number is accurate or low.
Sure. And then I would say, is this a formulaic, predictable story filled with cliche? I would also say yes.
Pretty much.
And yet, I'm here on this podcast to tell you it's one of the best movies of the year because the good in this movie is so damn good. I don't give a fuck about the rest of the flaws.
I generally agree.
I also agree. We spent some time this morning before recording watching a meme of the so it's the fight between Javier Bardem's character
Stilgar and Chani
and Zendaya's character in Dune 2. But in the subtitles are replaced with the F1 discourse. And it's very well, whoever did that meme, congratulations to you. You've got a bright future. And it does seem like a lot of people are nitpicking, but then there are also a lot of people who are like, well, this is really loud and fun. And when they get it right, as Jack said, they get it really right.
I think it's because there is a sacred understanding in the art of the summer blockbuster that summer blockbusters do not need to be. It would be nice if they were, but they do not need to be innovative in terms of story. They do not need to wow you with performance. What they need to do is thrill and satisfy you in the experience of blockbustering. The big set piece, the thrilling chase, the desire to watch two characters have chemistry together. That's really all that we need. This movie has a secret sauce, which is just sick racing.
Yeah.
And that kind of is all that matters.
Yeah. And then one emotional beat that I do think they nail.
Which is?
So Brad Pitt, like in the balcony scene, you know, after he has sex with his coworker, which, you know, there's a note on that, but that's fine. When he is like, I'm just trying to find that moment. Yeah, like he nails that speech, I think. You don't agree?
I think it's okay. I don't think it's egregious by any stretch, but I wasn't
right.
Like,
it's not as bad as some of
emotionally.
the other stuff.
Yes.
But then they pay that off.
I agree.
Okay.
I would just say, to your point, I think I told you this earlier, the word I would use to describe it is it's hypnotic. When Kaczynski is building the action set pieces in this film, it's legitimately mesmerizing, and you're not remembering that you need to do laundry when you get home or you need to order takeout. It's just you and the screen. And Kaczynski is entering like a really rarefied air. I would say up there with like Peele, Villeneuve, Nolan. Like he's on a short list of names when it comes to building mesmerizing action set pieces that are really genuinely impressive.
It's exciting. It's nice to have another person that we're like, okay, when we see a date on the calendar for one of their movies, you know you're at least going to get one certain aspect is going to be really satisfying. I'm very curious to see how well this movie does like across the summer, whether or not it hit the hardcore fans and it will trickle off or if it has staying power because the word of mouth has been good.
Right.
It's a rare like, here's what's not good about this movie and I don't care kind of a movie. Whereas I think for the most part in our movie culture, especially with serious fans who go to see everything, they can kind of like nitpick something to death at the outset and it kind of deflates the balloon for a movie. This seems to be somewhat immune to that so far, which has been a fascinating thing to watch.
Did you have anything else on your list? Like, if you had first pick, would it still be F1 or?
I mean, no, it would be Sinners.
Okay,
it would be Sinners.
So Rob Mahoney comes for us all.
I think it was Sinners, Black Bag, and Friendship were ahead of this for me.
Okay. Oh, that's a nice list.
Yeah.
Good job. You felt seen as a 20-something in Friendship?
Oh my God, absolutely.
So that also applies to the 20-somethings, not just the 30s and 40s.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, like I was 19 years old when COVID struck, and I feel like that just did a lot of social damage to not just my own psyche, but I would say my peers in terms of
Interesting. I've never heard that before. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I thought Friendship was amazing. But F1 is amazing too.
It is. Great pick, Jack. Thanks. You. Okay, man, it's just you and me now. The way that the show is always designed to be. The last two survivors on Movie Island.
Right.
What's your pick?
Phoenician Scheme. Which I feel good about. I think I said already on this episode that left to my own devices, I would have picked Black Bag. But I think I would have been doing myself and movie culture a disservice, just as I think the movie world and people at large do every Wes Anderson movie a disservice. We just are not appreciating enough what's going on with Wes Anderson. This is one of our favorite working filmmakers. I think one of the great working filmmakers who is just like really, really in his zone. And he is in his own zone and has created like an entire world and a visual and an emotional language that he is just doing variations on makes it sounds reductive. And I think some of the quote unquote complaints about this, which I don't really recognize, are that it's just like another Wes Anderson diorama movie. That is rude to the art of cinematography, production design, and Wes Anderson's brain.
Yeah, the writing, the music,
the acting style, the humor, the ideas. I still regret how we treated Asteroid City, which I think is like his. I don't think it's late career, but it's his like.
His mid-career masterpiece.
Latest career masterpiece or masterwork. And this is doing something a little different and maybe a little less adventurous or a little less interested in playing with form and chronology. But still rich with ideas, still rich with illusions, still very rewarding to people who have been with him on the ride, which we have. And that's another thing where there aren't as many filmmakers where you and I like kind of came of age as like film watchers at the same time. And I definitely did with Wes Anderson. So I'm like thinking like a Rushmore and a Royal Tenenbaums fan when I'm watching Asteroid City and Phoenician Scheme. But yeah, it's like beautiful, both visually and emotionally, smart, funny. Benicio del Toro, sort of like the undersung performance of the year, in my opinion.
He's wonderful.
And as is the rest of the supporting cast.
I'm a little surprised that this movie has not had a little bit more of a rallying cry about it as just a good movie for a moment. And I think that it's a little bit hard for people to separate the aesthetics of the Wes Anderson movie style with what the films are about. But obviously there's been like a pretty persistent anti-fascist theme of his movies since Grand Budapest Hotel. That's a big part of that story. It's a big part of this story. The relationship between power and wealth, and that being a primary concern of this movie, given what has been transpiring, at least in the United States of America in the last month or so.
Right.
I think a lot of it is just down to people seeing a trailer and saying like, I'm sick of this, and not giving it a chance or not being willing to engage. I don't think this is quite on the level of Asteroid City, but I do think it's on the level of French Dispatch. And
totally.
I wonder if more people will now start discovering it once it gets into the VOD cycle. Just like the last 3 or 4 movies are it's been the same arc where it's like it comes out, the diehards really yell loud about it, some casuals get interested, and then it needs a second wave when it comes home. And whether that's good or bad, I guess is debatable. But this one in particular, the response was more muted than usual. So I'm glad that you chose it.
Yeah.
There's nothing muted about my pick. My pick is Warfare.
Yeah.
Which, especially in the cold light of 28 years later, I find to be a fascinating appetizer for that movie, because It is a movie that I think is actually quite free of a lot of Alex Garland's obsessions. 28 years later is kind of the absolute pinnacle of, the erosion of humanity colliding with the nation state, and these like technology tearing us apart, all these ideas.
Right. Warfare, he just picked one, which is the military industrial complex.
Yes. But done in this unique way where he's collaborating with Ray Mendoza, his co-director on the movie, who is a veteran, someone who served in the Middle East, and who is bringing all of his very specific memories to this movie and the making of it. To me, it's an amazing showcase for what a great filmmaker Garland has become. Like as an image maker, his use of sound, his use of the performance style he gets out of people, the staging he has. And my favorite thing about it, and my favorite thing about talking to both Mendoza and Garland about the movie was, even though they're clearly friends and they like working together, they see the world differently and they decided to do something together. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's very rare to find two people who are, simpatico creatively, but not necessarily, I don't know about politically or the way that they see the military or the way that they see. And I'm not trying to ascribe specific political thought to either of those guys because they were both a little circumspect when we talked about it. But I asked them both about whether or not this is an anti-war movie, and they had a different point of view. And I find, and I could feel it in the movie.
Yeah.
You can really feel in the movie that there are some profound misgivings about the nature of conflict and the nature of violent conflict. And then there is also this like begrudging sense of necessity when you find yourself in certain circumstances. And it's just a really amazing friction in the story. And on top of the fact that it is just like a punishing movie, a movie that just like hurts to watch and accomplishes what it wants to accomplish. And I'm quite curious to see where Garland goes as a director from here. Because he's been more focused on the like, let me violate your senses while watching a movie more than anything else.
Both Garland examples this year are made in collaboration with someone else, and I think that I would apply that to most people and we have been talking about this in great deal.
Take this very podcast.
Yeah, well, but that if you can find someone who you can at least work with creatively, that has historically yielded like a lot of great work. And sometimes I do feel like recently we've been getting, with the exception of the Wes Andersons of the world, some like very like closed off auteurist examples where you can feel that it's like only one person and there hasn't been anyone pushing back or anyone saying, what about this? Or what if we tried it this way? Or imagine what we could do. So, it's great that people like working together and that it makes the work better sometimes.
I wanted to shout out a couple of other movies before we wrap up. Adam Nayman mentioned The Shrouds. He didn't want to pick it because he didn't want to be accused of Canadian bias. But David Cronenberg's real late style, I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but it is also kind of violating in a way in its ideas about death and what we want to see all the time. So I love that movie. One movie I haven't had a chance to talk about on the show, I don't think you've had a chance to see it. It just came out. It's called Familiar Touch.
I haven't.
It is directed by a woman named Sarah Friedland. It's her first feature. It stars Kathleen Chalfant as a woman, I believe in her 80s, who's struggling with dementia. And her son puts her into a facility where she can live out the rest of her days.
Yeah.
The movie is amazing for two reasons. One, Chalfant gives an incredible performance as this woman who is very elegant and educated, and to watch her like lose some of that. And we've seen this in movies before. Sarah Polley made a movie about this some years ago. But then the flip side of it is the movie has this very like outside abstract portrait of the caregivers and the people who work in the facility and how they interact with people who are struggling with these things. And the fact that these people are not just servants to the final days of someone's life. They're people with feelings, and they also can be disturbed and frustrated, and also inspire people and make them feel better. So very quiet, simple. I've had grandparents who have gone into these facilities. It's super difficult to watch someone that you knew and cared about kind of slowly fall away from day-to-day life. So I thought that was a very special movie. Final Destination Bloodlines is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. It's loud, gross, stupid, and really fun.
Yeah.
No one picked it here. I'm kind of surprised no one picked it. It's been a sensation.
If we hadn't had two of the best movies of the year also be loud and virtuosically violent in different ways, maybe it would be on the table. But
I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
It's currently in my top 10, and I feel good about that.
Great.
I wanted to give some love to One of Them Days.
This is a great pick. Yeah, I'm like, oh, should I have picked this one instead?
This is really good. I revisited it on Netflix the other day. And I was like, this is just a good hang. Like, this is
really
like a good
funny.
dorm room movie.
Yeah.
You know, you can just like kind of put it on at any hour of the day and it's just really fun. I thought SZA was really, really funny in this.
Yes.
Even watching it the second time, she was really great. And then I did want to quickly shout out a movie called A Desert, which I also really liked, which starts out as a movie about a photographer who is like a successfully commercial photographer who's trying to kind of rediscover his mojo by going out to the desert and shoot whatever he stumbles upon. And he's particularly interested in abandoned drive-in movie theaters.
Okay.
And so it seems like it's kind of a neo-noir, kind of a thriller. And then it takes a hard pivot into something much more sinister and violent and scary. I thought it was really good. It's a debut from Joshua Erkman as the director, and I think it's going to be on Shudder soon. It was quite striking and quite good. Okay. So that's some bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you most mad at for taking a movie from you?
I don't feel anger at anyone on this one. I think that the anger is sort of directed between our guests, and I like to, foster healthy discussion while also like not having to want to kill Rob Mahoney for once in my life.
Okay.
But, that was a theme that emerged, right? Was Rob Mahoney once again comes and takes away something from everybody.
Do you think we should have an episode where everybody gets to pick on Rob for 2 hours?
It's hard, you know? Like,
I know.
where would the...
I know.
Yeah, like, I don't know where the weaknesses
Tall,
are.
square-jawed,
I would
strong intellect.
I would like to understand how to defeat him in a draft, but I don't yet have my arms around that strategy.
Can I pitch a theory as to his rise?
Sure.
He's secretly just like the right amount younger than us, that he is actually in his prime and we're not. No offense. You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
He's like
younger.
in his early mid-30s.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are all desiccated corpses.
Was it, I think in 1999 draft, he took Notting Hill from me, I would say.
What about from me?
And then I don't want to slander him, because I know what happens when you piss Rob Mahoney off. But so I'm not 100% sure, but like I got the feeling that he had only recently seen Notting Hill before that draft.
Oh, wow.
And that upset me.
Wow.
On many levels.
That's a strong accusation.
Well, he was only born like 4 years after Notting Hill, so you have to play catch up sometime.
It's crazy. Rob Mahoney just turned 19.
Yeah.
So impressive.
Happy birthday.
He's so smart. Okay. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks to our producer, Jack Sanders, for his contributions, both on mic and off in this episode. Later this week, we are going to an 8 a.m. screening of Jurassic World Rebirth. Me and Amanda and CR. We are going to watch the movie, but before that, we're going to watch the Odyssey teaser.
If it is available.
If it is attached to the film.
But I am showing up like for all of the teasers at 8 a.m. We need to talk. We got to talk about like a coffee and pastry strategy beforehand.
Well, we're going to the Americana. There should be something open, right?
I actually don't know.
Egg slut? What do you think?
At 8 a.m.?
Is it not open? Is it not open?
I don't know what's going on there.
Okay. Well, we'll get into it then.
Okay.
We'll see you on Wednesday.